you check the children? Your little mess
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil, Laird.
Duell.
And Jaime and Fuego here.
We are still working out the set details, so we are going to have a few reviews on this green background. Hope that's okay with you guys. But today we're talking about something that absolutely needs to be discussed, and this review needs to drop before the end of this month. So we're recording this on Sunday. Likely, if I can get it turned around, this will go up either Monday or Tuesday. And this is our review of the first season of Lovecraft Country. This show is something we did a trailer reaction to, maybe a couple of them, and we were excited when we saw it, and then we watched the first episode. I don't think we actually reviewed the first episode.
I could have sworn we did.
Maybe we did. You know what? Maybe you're right. Yeah. But we were really impressed and excited. It was a very creaturey opening episode, and so I had high hopes, and you know, I'm gonna try not to hit every point that I'm gonna hit in the opening, which will also take away a lot of what you guys have to say, because I loved a lot about this show. I was a big fan of this show. Some people were disappointed with the ending, and I actually fell asleep the first time, but it was really a booze situation, not a quality situation. So I went back and rewatched it, and I think this series is a big, big win in a lot of ways. There were one or two episodes that were a little bit weaker than the rest, but I had such a good time with this. The biggest thing I'm going to say is, yes, I love creatures and stuff, but the acting is what impressed me the most with this series.
Absolutely.
The acting was unbelievable. I can't wait to go in depth on that. But overall, this series was a big, big win for me. Robert?
No, most definitely. And one thing, like, if you already know, like, I'm a big anything Lovecraftian, like the macabre kind of stuff. I love any of that. So when that first episode delivered within the first, like, what, 10, like, not even 10 minutes.
No, very beginning.
Yeah, it was like,
dream.
The dream. Yeah. And, like, once I saw that, I was immediately hooked full on the rest of the show.
Jackie Robinson.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was so great. It was so great. But no, everything from even just like the small little minor characters and everything, even just the overall like story and everything, like I enjoyed the hell out of this show. And again, it was one of those things, like they ended up watching it, finishing up basically before I did. I killed this show in 2 days. I used my time at work and at home very well.
Keep a secret safe.
But no, other than that, I cannot wait for season 2. Fuego?
Damn good show. Damn good. It lost me about like episode 7, 8-ish. They started veering around and covering certain other things, but as a whole, I was most impressed with the mashing of so many different genres that they were able to accomplish in this, whether it was like full-on horror, whether it was science fiction, like adventure. Mm-hmm. I mean, straight up adventure, thrilling, sort of like almost Indiana Jones-ness, here and there, which was really cool. And of course, very essential racial and social commentary, which is about as timely as ever right now with the crazy year that we've had and certain stuff. So yeah, acting as well, this entire ensemble. While I do feel like there were certain characters I wanted a little bit more from. We'll get to that later, obviously, but yeah, I mean, everybody was written so well. It just fits so many different aspects and pieces of stuff together, but it all still felt natural. It didn't feel forced, and yes, this show impressed me immensely.
I gotta say, between this and Watchmen, I learned more about Black history from HBO this year than I did in my entire grade school career, pretty much. Like
doing the Lord's work.
It's really great, honestly. Like, there's a lot of really cool stories, and the way they interweave them throughout the narrative. As like teachable moments throughout, like every episode had a teachable moment, a lesson and stuff, but it wasn't so in your face about it.
Yeah, they definitely were. They definitely held back on the heavy-handedness of the racial tension. While it was there and it was obviously known, like I was telling some coworkers about this. I'm like, you cannot like a single white character in this show. Like, I'm not bullshitting you.
Yeah,
like, but that was
so much.
But that was the era and everything, the Jim Crow era in 1955, where this is taking place. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, the story is. Who wants to tackle the story? I mean, the long and short of it. Fuego, you want to give it a go?
Yeah, certainly. So we have this dude who's just come back from the Korean War, Atticus, or Tick, as pretty much everybody calls him, and he's returned home to Chicago, right? From Florida, where he was stationed, and his father is missing. And so basically that is, the reasoning for his return. and he goes on this little road trip of sorts with like an old kind of love interest, but she remembers him when he was like wearing the glasses and kind of
skinny
nerded out
little
and
nerd
stuff.
guy,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the three of them.
Three of them, and yes, they basically go from up in the Illinois area, and they drive down into areas of the country that most definitely, especially at that time, I mean, there's still a lot of racism in certain areas where they're driving through, and it's really hideous and sad. But this was when it was as bad as you could imagine, so much so that even though the nation was changing in a lot of portions, the uncle was putting together one of those travel almanac for safe passage through some of these hideous, nasty areas. And boy, did they experience it in the very first episode quite compellingly, with like the slowest car chase ever, but yet one of the most anxiety filled and scary.
It was literally a race against the clock. Like that was the craziest part of it.
Yeah, but as they peel back the layers and we get into secret societies and magic and other worlds and all kinds of other stuff, but yet still keeping
severe
that
body horror at times.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we also have an episode with like haunting and like ghosts and like experiments.
That's
on
why
people.
I pulled out my phone, because there's each episode like represented a different kind of genre. So the first episode was the team up episode.
Yeah.
The second episode was the recovery of the objective, and then things switch right by the end. The third episode was the haunting. The fourth episode was the Indiana Jones.
Love that episode.
The fifth episode was the were episode, not werewolf necessarily.
That was a really cool episode and
great?
everything. Like when you guys were describing that before I even watched this,
it's gross, right?
Oh my god, it was super cool.
It was so good.
Like, shedding your skin, so to speak.
And then sixth episode was about the Kamiko.
Yep.
Ah, yes. Dude. Okay, so with that scene, like with that episode, like I'm sitting in my truck at lunch and everything. I'm just watching this, and all of a sudden it gets to the final scene, and it just goes quiet. Oh! And it's just like that.
Even the opening scene,
and like you kind of know what was gonna happen, but it's still that you almost didn't expect it, but you expected it at the same time.
Yeah, and also one thing that I liked about that episode was they gave a lot more, just I guess. When you learn about the history of Atticus, you find out that he had done some pretty reprehensible things himself in the midst of war, and for following orders and all that other stuff. And I felt that was really intriguing to make this character imperfect. I mean, despite all of the shit that he deals with from all of the horrible prejudice, he still was kind of figuring himself out in certain ways as well. And I found that fascinating, and just made the character more compelling for me, the way he was written.
And then episode 7 is where Fuego got lost, because that's when we got into the more space-time aspect of the Lovecraft sort of mythology. And then, but then episode 8 brought it right back with the It Follows episode.
Yeah.
Like, that was an amazing episode. And then 9 and 10 were basically the wrap-up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the series broke down story-wise. And I gotta say, I just was along for it every step of the way. There were episodes that made me cry. Episode 3 made me cry.
Oh, straight up!
Like I never thought I would.
I straight up choked up on that, dude. I was
it was an exorcism scene, and I've never, I never thought I would cry during an exorcism scene, but it was just so
the way they
powerful.
Framed it
and if it was powerful for me, I can't imagine what it was like for the black audience out there that got to experience this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's only so much that we can relate to. I
exactly.
mean, bunch of white dudes.
But yeah, story-wise, I loved it. Any other story stuff to talk about from you guys?
Basically, it was really kind of touched on it and everything. Again, without going too much into the spoiler stuff on it, it was really nice just on the interweavings of the different cultural legends and things like that, and just even for like the American legends of the witchcraft and the Haitian voodoo stuff like that. That was all kind of semi-tied into this, even with like our other characters, the secret society stuff, which I kind of dug at points and everything, but at the same time, just I don't know, like I don't know. I didn't really there was just something about it that still just didn't. I didn't like partly of that in the story.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Last thing that I definitely want to mention is there's different prejudice besides racism that we explore with a certain character in this, and especially being the 50s and stuff. I mean, the LGBTQ community and stuff. The way that they focus on this story, and there's one point where
you'll never look at Omar from The Wire the same way again. I'll tell you that.
But there's a point with him where he's at this like kind of performance, this drag performance and stuff, and he's like just really standoffish at first, but then you see the look of just joy in embracing himself in that scene. And it's just a beautiful thing, honestly. And also another musical sequence that's great is in the final episode where they're all driving in the vehicle.
Yep.
And just the camaraderie of this gang that has kind of, this crew of sorts that's grown over the course of the season. And you've learned so much about all of them. And
that's the last bit of light before the
banding
darkness.
together aspect.
Straight
Yeah,
up.
It's a beautiful scene, beautifully acted. Good segue into the acting there, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on this because the acting, again, was the strongest part of this, especially Atticus, Tick.
Yeah, Tick
he
was
was
great,
so good. And, like, the thing that he did so well is this guy that was raised a particular way that was constantly having his whole world upended throughout this. Like, his whole past was upended, like, 3 different times.
Indeed.
And every time, you just see the strain on his face where he's trying to be the tough guy that isn't letting it, you know, get the tears, but then the tears come and he just like, you know, like, and he's just, he's so in it and so like, and his anger is palpable and his reasoning is just, you know, infallible at times, but at other times maybe not so. And like, it's just, Tick especially really impressed me. Letty was amazing.
Such a babe.
The uncle and the dad were both amazing. Quite frankly, the acting was really great, even from the creepy white twins, basically, throughout the series.
Kind of the Dodge.
Almost a Skarsgård lookalike.
Yeah, Dodgish. Yeah, they were very Dodgish from Lock and Key. You're not wrong. So yeah, acting wise, I was just really floored and impressed and constantly rewarded by the acting that I saw on screen.
I most definitely agree. Especially one thing that really pointed me out on like the acting was the chemistry between our Atticus, our main guy, and his father.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do a whole big bit on it. Don't worry, I'll let you have your spot. But yeah, no, like what happened with them and everything was such a beautiful story, and the wraparound that we finally got from his father's childhood.
Yeah, the way without spoiling it.
Yeah, without spoiling it,
that back
like
up
that basically rebonded them for life. And because, like, obviously, like, they more than likely, you know, kind of know, a little strained relationship and everything, but with how their arguments and how they fell apart and came back together was so nice to see. And again, there were times, like, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little frog in my throat. It was really nice to see. And that's basically my highlights of what I'm going to touch up on.
Yeah. I mean, acting from Tick's father was fantastic, and just his struggle and the situation and how imperfect he is in his own right too. He was a very tortured person, and when we have our Back to the Future episode 9, and you kind of finally find out why his father is the way he is, because it was just apple not fallen far from the tree sort of situation, and that was heartbreaking to see. And yet also the bond with him and his brother, you know, Tick's uncle obviously, and just finding out the importance of what he took from both his daddy and his uncle. Ruby too. Everything that she experienced with kind of getting almost like a Pandora's box wish granted sort of situation, and they explored it heartbreakingly. And yet also like an interesting romance that a kind of romance sort of thing going on, you know, with her and well, I guess it is
a
just
character,
one character and not two of those spoiling stuff. But the whole aspect of, you know, shedding your skin or putting someone else's on just to walk in the shoes and find that all out. She sold it so well and so compellingly. I mean, she was great. I mean, everybody was great, as we've said, but those are just ones I really want to mention too.
So the technical aspect of this, as far as the cinematography, the sound design, all of that was just phenomenal. HBO kills it in that category every time.
No pun intended.
I mean, this was this was a gorgeous show to watch,
and a gory show too.
Gory show. Well, we'll get to the effects separately, but yeah, the technical aspects. It's a gorgeous show that was beautifully presented. The sound design was amazing. The creature design was really cool. Like, all the actual production design was gorgeous, and it sung hand in hand. A beautiful duet with the actual cinematography. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna wax poetic about it, I just really loved the technical aspects of this series.
I would definitely agree with that. Even on like some of the more cosmic scenes that we got, that's where I thought they really shined on their effects.
Episode 7, for sure.
Well, hell, even in that opening, the first episode, and that opening scene and everything, that was a big scene to open with, and that was very well done. And even some of the small little details from the cars, the set, the clothing,
Yeah.
like, the little things like that, even the shop windows, like those are the little things that I like to see on, in a sense, like your period piece, you know, kind of thing.
I'm not usually a period piece fan, but I was on board this whole
Oh
series.
yeah, as long as you have engaging story and your characters, it doesn't matter.
Same with Umbrella Academy Season 2. That was a period piece technically, but it was
True.
engaging with story and character.
See, I haven't gotten any of those.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
good.
I haven't even gotten to the
Yeah,
first
it's okay.
season.
It's okay.
I got other shit to
Don't
watch.
worry about it. No, it's okay. Get through Doom Patrol Season 2.
Yeah, man.
Like-
I was gonna mention the cars and all that stuff too, because of the fact that I just when they can recreate a time in history that I've always thought was, I mean, despite a lot of social and racial stuff that was going down, it was a beautiful period to look at as far as, you know, everything
Style wise,
cultural culture, style, attire, all of that different stuff. I also love this house that kind of becomes their main base, and the look of it, the design of all of that. Also, the indie episode I loved so much, because when there's that sort of like exploring the museum and then finding the underground passageways and all that different stuff, and they're flooding the place, so there's that
leap of faith.
essence of
Dude, I'd have
urgency.
been
It was-
tripping
it
balls,
was
man, on that
straight-
one.
Dude, it was
Straight out of Last Crusade.
Last Crusade,
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
And then also episode 9 with going even further back, and you know, that was their straight up Back to the Future homage in a lot of ways too, which was really great.
Back to the
So-
same event that was the triggering event in Watchmen. Actually, that was the exact same
really?
event.
That same? Wow.
Mhm.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yep.
Well,
So-
they hit some of the most important points then. for
I
sure.
never knew about this event before this year. Like, that's my point. Like, HBO's teaching me about Black history. I you know what? If this is how I'm taught history, I'll take it. Any day of the week, 100%.
Public school learned me good.
I went to private. They still,
Oh, well,
still
fuck.
didn't do it this interesting.
Fuck me then.
Yeah, really. Fuck you. No, but lastly, let's get into the effects. Yes, it is
Yeah.
a gory show. Unfortunately, sometimes the CG was a little much. At one point, someone gets slashed and their bleeding looks really CG and not realistic at all. So that, it was, you know, you just kind of have to get used to that at one particular point. But otherwise, again, we mentioned the creature design in the technical aspects, but the creature execution with how they looked and CG and all that stuff, I thought it was dope. I thought it was really cool.
Agreed.
And then the gore that we got was really cool. So the practical effects that we got at times were really cool. I was on board for all of the effects.
Most definitely. I will say it's even the I'll just say the forest creature.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That design I thought was super cool, and it was pretty original. Like, I hadn't seen that really before. Well, I would say, it's somewhat on John Carter from Mars. You know, at least the mouth thing.
I could see that.
Yeah, but other than that, like, it was a pretty original creature design, and the gore that we got when we saw the creature in action was one of the best things during those scenes.
Cleo?
Yeah, man. Boy, beheadings of people, just the absolute devourment, and like where our Korean girl was just covered in blood and goop and all of that nastiness. I've actually seen some reviewers feel like the show is too violent, and I can't. I guess I'm probably desensitized, so I just can't.
I must say, I think
can't agree with that.
It's the perfect
unfortunately.
HBO balance.
Yeah. I'll definitely agree. And I mean, it's also it's kind of sexy show. There's a lot of hot scenes in this, so I give them credit there as well. But also the skin shedding,
Spicy meat the bone.
the skin shedding, man, it's Borat's fault for that returning into the vernacular. But
I saw a funny tweet or Instagram post that said the last curse of 2020 is that everyone starts doing Borat voices again.
yeah, it is.
I was telling them, like, I didn't even know we had another Borat until like
whatever.
2 days ago.
But do you know, if I may, the music is one thing that I do want to mention. Anytime shows that are set in a certain period or playing modern music, at times it throws me off a little bit. And I've made mention of this
anachronicity
before.
really gets to
Yeah, well, it does. I mean, and when you're hearing stuff like Bo Diddley and Little Richard and all of that awesomeness that was of the era, I was loving it so much. But then when I'm hearing like Cardi B and Marilyn Manson, I'm just like, it just pulled me out a little bit. It's one of the few criticisms of the show that I have.
That's no, I'm right there with you. And there's a couple of scenes like I understand why they might have grabbed the song for it because of the lyrics.
Money.
Yeah, but that does not mean that it's a good fit for your show. That honestly is a good way to kind of pull you back out just that little bit.
They're not the first show to do this.
No, they aren't. They
Lots of
aren't in
shows
everything.
have.
And that's why it's like, honestly, like I'm kind of with Fuego. It's like that's really the smallest gripe I have with this entire show is just some of their music choices.
But if that's the only thing that I can
Yeah,
really find myself
other than
about,
that, like this show is amazing.
Yeah.
And again, if
Second
you guys
version.
haven't watched it, get your ass out there and watch it.
HBO Max, sucker.
Yeah.
Get that free trial going.
That's going to do it, you guys, for our review of Lovecraft Country. Season 1, we don't know yet if Season 2 is going to be coming or not. They
still don't
haven't
know.
said either way, but we'll hold out hope for the best. Why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below, what did you think of this season? Thank you very much to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to become a patron, the link is in the description box down below. You can tell us movies to review, do commentaries for, all that good stuff. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert Duell.
And gracias, Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.